We pray that you bless them, continue to guide them with the wisdom that is needed. And certainly, Father, just bless us. Watch over our children. We need you, Father, in this day and time, and we know you have called us to be here at this particular moment to do your will and to help protect the citizens of our great state of Michigan. And it's in your Son, Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Don, my friend. Oh, Pastor Don has been engaged in the battle, and I've gotten to know him over the last 4 years, and so appreciate. He is a pastor who engages in the culture in a big way, and you'll learn more about what he's doing in a minute. I just want to first give you some good news. If you haven't seen some of the headlines, a couple I wanted to draw out was one, that federal scholarship tax credit is moving along and will be going out to the states. And we do want to have it offers parents another educational choice because it gives parents a credit, which helps them financially. And the only thing our state has to do is our governor has to opt Michigan in. So when it gets to the point where it's going to require her to make that, put that signature in, you will be hearing from us to put pressure. I don't know why she wouldn't. It makes no sense not to, but as you know, we never know. But that's the good news. The other thing was a huge, you probably saw it this week, precedent setting Supreme Court case out in California, but affects everyone across the nation. Because what they ruled was that teachers, or actually school districts, states may not pass laws that keep children, that allow schools to secretly transition children and keep that knowledge away from their parents. And they ruled against that law. California had actually passed a law that allowed teachers to keep that information secret from the parents if the child wanted to secretly transition. So it's a big win because in essence, the Supreme Court of the land again is reaffirming our fundamental right to direct the care and education of our children. So be encouraged, parents. The law is on our side yet again. First, we had Mahmoud v. Taylor out in Maryland. Now we have this Mirabelli, I forgot the first name, Mirabelli court case out in California. And don't be fooled. People said, no, 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 that's just California. No, when it's a Supreme Court ruling, that is a precedent set. And I know Tom and Nikki, we have Tom McMillan here. Thanks, Tom, for joining us, who is valiantly defending our values in the state school board of education. And they are watching all these cases closely, and it only helps them and us. Another law that was really excellent in our state house. Now, this is in our state house. Representative Gina Johnson was the sponsor of the law. And it basically, because you all started talking to us and we all started getting together because of that horrific state school board ruling or guidelines that they put in place, the 71-page document. And the state legislature really basically had no say over it, and they passed it 6-2. Well, the law that Gina pushed through the education committee went on to the House floor. It passed. It will prohibit any state board changes to the state's model curriculum content standards from being implemented or enforced unless or until the changes are supported through a concurrent resolution in the House and Senate. Why is that important? Well, the state board only reaches how many people even pay attention to what they're doing. The House and Senate representatives of the House, at least, are elected every 2 years. And we're watching what they're voting on. And they have more of a reach to the people in their districts. And our state house people, did reach out. They did let their constituents know what the state board was doing. And this is an important law. Now, unfortunately, it's going to go on to the Senate, and we don't have a majority in the Senate. So it would be tough slogging the leader of the state Senate Majority Leader has already stated that Senator Winnie Brinks, you people in Grand Rapids, we all know who she is. She said that's not going to go anywhere, but it's okay. We still had a victory. It's on the record. It passed, and we'll just, be involved and engaged in this election to get back our state senate.
And if
Another
I could,
reason.
Eileen, if I could just interject, just so everybody's aware, it is not a law. It's just a bill that's been
It's a bill.
proposed,
Yeah.
right? And so, just so people are aware, like there is value in that it's been proposed because your legislators are listening to you, they hear you, they're trying to advocate for you. But to Eileen's point, until we get both chambers that have a majority that support the parents, we will not have this on the books. I had someone that offered a clarification to me, so I thought I'd just offer that.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, wasn't just a proposal. It was a bill that passed the House,
Yep.
which now goes on to the Senate. It's going to go into a Senate committee and not pass right now. We're probably not even going to have a hearing right now. But yes, I will get the bill number for you. I should have written it down on my cheat sheet, but I didn't. I will put that in chat. And some those folks who are on here from Oakland County, we know that there are several issues, and you all are watching as the Oakland County gentleman, Adam Piazza, is that how you say his name? Those of you in Lake Orion School District, he's sued the school district because they charged him a $14,000 FOIA fee, which is ridiculous, outrageous. That is not how you weaponize the FOIA tool, the Freedom of Information tool that we have. So, we're staying on that, keep in touch. We're watching how this travels, through the process. Mackinac Center is all over this as well. And I think you all maybe saw Dave Bondi, one of the podcasters who talked about that incident, and also the incident of the wonderful school board member Carol Beth Latucci, and her story as the Rochester School Board has tried to silence her, and she's an elected official, as they have sought to set a new tax hike, in Rochester. And that, you know what? Transparency, sunlight really helps. And they are feeling very uncomfortable right now. Even Congressman John James spoke to the board, I think it was this week earlier. It's getting a lot of attention, and that's a good thing. We'll see how that all plays out. And many of you in Oakland County, I know are watching that very closely, and that's good. Can't tell you how we appreciate the courage of the parents and the elected trustees and school board members who are, man, that's time, energy, treasure that you are expending. And I want to encourage you that it is paying off, and it will pay off. You're in the battle, you're in the fight, and that's a good thing. We do have two State Board of Education candidates now. They filed. We're looking to perhaps having them come on one of our Zooms and talk about who they are and what their background is. But it's Terrence Collins and Bree Mogenberg. That is decided at convention. As you know, that vote takes place at the state convention, as does the candidates who will be the Attorney General candidates and the state Secretary of State candidates at the state convention, which is the end of March. So many of you, I think, are delegates. You probably just went through your county conventions and are going to the state convention, and I applaud you. I'll be there too as a delegate, and we will select good people to run for these offices. But now I want to kind of get to our speakers. That's just a quick roundup of some of the stories. There's more, but we'll be sending a memo out, and you'll see more and more details. But Don, I want to welcome you. Don has been a pastor in the Sterling Heights area for many, many years, and I'm going to let him share that. And he also just joined the organization, is leading the organization called CURE, the Center for Urban Renewal in Education. Did I say it right? Yes. That's been in existence for quite a while. Very, very solid, prestigious organization that has done good work. And Don is now heading it up, and he's become a frequent flyer. And he's going to share with us. So his involvement with the Department of Justice as they've pursued these cases, these three school districts in Michigan, as they have violated the law. So Don, take it away. Share a little bit of who you are, and then if you could go into why are these cases important, and how did that come about?
Okay. Well, thank you, Eileen. Thank you again for the invitation to be on the call with you all today. And certainly, um, I'm honored to be here and share with you what has been going on. I do believe God has sent me to DC at this time for this particular cause, for one of the reasons he sent me here. I'll give a little bit of my background. I've been a pastor for over 30 years. I've been involved in the political arena probably 20 to 30, if not longer. I believe there is a scripture that actually that's in Ephesians. Actually, let me just touch on that really quickly. This is Paul talking. He said he was called to preach to the Gentiles, to bring to light for everyone what is the plan of the mystery hidden for all ages in God, who created all things, so that through the church, the manifold wisdom of God might now be made known to the rulers and the authorities in the heavenly places. So the reason I'm involved as a pastor is that it's actually part of our calling. That is how they learn. That is how they learn God's laws, is through God's people, and we have a responsibility to teach it to them. How I got involved in the schools more. Actually, some grandparents and some parents asked me to speak at some school board meetings because of what was happening in their schools. And so I spoke at a few school board meetings, and from there, they started calling me a controversial pastor. I never thought I was controversial, but and again, and when I speak to school boards, I actually speak the way the Bible tells us to speak. It says a soft answer turns away wrath. So I actually believe the school board members, a lot of them got on the school board because they do want to protect our children. They do care about our communities. However, there are things being pushed down from higher up that are, and they don't, people get afraid to stand their ground. So that's why we're here. That's why you're here, Citizens for Traditional Values, to help people stand their ground. And so let's look at what's going on in Michigan in these three different school districts. I guess the first question is, why the DOJ and why not the Federal Department of Education? Well, it's the DOJ in these particular schools because they receive some of their funding from the DOJ. And because they receive some funding from the DOJ, they can actually investigate if they're keeping the laws. We'll use the supremacy clause, the laws that they say, for example, there's only male and female. That's how they recognize people as male and female. And so the transgender, they don't recognize that. But in our Elliott Larson law, we actually do. They don't recognize the idea of a child being transition from a boy to a girl or a girl to a boy. And give you an idea, my brother texted me yesterday. He has a daughter that's playing volleyball. Her tooth was, one of her teeth was knocked out, so she lost a tooth, and they would not replace it with a permanent tooth until she's 18 years old, even with her parents' permission. However, you can be in the 5th grade and say, I'm a girl if you're a boy, or you can be a girl and say, I'm a boy, and they will try to start transitioning you, but you can't get your tooth replaced until you're 18 years old. So that's just how sick some of this stuff is. So the DOJ received some information from our state. There are several people working on it, Salt Lake Global, myself here at Cure, trying to help our children. And what really brought it to light for the DOJ is what actually you sent me the information. You sent me some information on what's going on in the health curriculum, and now parents can no longer opt out of some of the sexual ed because they've included in the health curriculum, which is mandatory, I believe, starting in junior high school or something like that. And so if you're listening to some of the talking heads out there, they'll say they can still opt out. They can opt out of sexual education, but they cannot opt out of health. And once they include it in the health curriculum, it's affecting all of our students. And so several parents, several students, even some board members have been harmed by this legislation or these laws that are in Michigan. And so let's go back to the DOJ. Why the DOJ and why not a parent? Maybe a parent could sue them, or a school board member, or a concerned citizen. Well, the reason that would not work is because it has to come down from the federal level to deal with these issues, which is, again, why I think the Lord sent me here to be right here next to them, where we could actually have the relationships and the ball can get moving. And so now the DOJ is involved in it. I actually met with the attorney that's over this. They call it a project at the DOJ. Last week actually, and they are using Michigan really as the catalyst to let the other states know that we will come after you for breaking these laws. What are the laws? One is Title IX. What I just mentioned about sexual orientation. They don't recognize sexual orientation at the federal level. So as soon as you start letting a boy in a girl's bathroom, you're violating Title IX because you're not protecting our young ladies in their bathrooms. So that's one. Two, religious liberty. Religious liberty for parents. They get to have a decision on how their children are educated. As soon as you bring the sexual education into the health curriculum, you are voiding a parent's decision to choose how they want their child educated, and so that they're breaking that law. And then there are several others, but those two are prim and proper, or right in front of us to see, and so that's what helped them start this investigation. It's 3 school districts. You have Detroit Community School District, you have the Lansing Community Schools, and then Godfrey Lee Community Schools. Godfrey Lee has said they will comply with the questionnaire or the investigation 100%. I haven't heard what the other 2 school districts will do, but they have to have their answer back by April the 6th. So by April the 6th, we will know what the DOJ's next step will be. Why not the Michigan Department of Education? Why didn't they? They're the ones that enacting some of these laws or sending them down to the school districts. Why not them? Well, because the Michigan Department of Education actually receives their funding from the federal Department of Education, not from the DOJ. So in order for them to investigate the Michigan Department of Education, they actually would have to have a referral from the federal Department of Education, because they have their own civil rights unit, which is the unit this is coming out of. This is part of the civil rights unit. Hermeet Dillon, which is she's over the civil rights unit at the Department of Justice. She's an assistant to Pam Bondi. So at some point she will probably get involved with what's going on in Michigan. And so what I will encourage everyone on this line to do is just continue. One, as a pastor, I'm going to say continue to pray that we can get the right outcomes for our students and our teachers and some of our parents. And also, the reason I'm really involved in it is because parents, according to Scripture, God tells parents to raise up their children in the way that they should go. And it is a parent's first responsibility to raise up and train their children. And the school system is actually an assistant to the parent. They don't own our children. They assist our parents in raising their children. And if you have an assistant and they're not doing what you
That's a good
ask
point.
them to
Right.
do, then you fire them, and you certainly have them change their behaviors. Here's the reality. With the investigation going on, I had a chance to listen to, I was at the State of the State address, and it seems to me that the governor doubled down on her protection of
Yeah.
LGBTQ rights and
Right. Congress
transgenderism.
be going out, I would think.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. We're just gonna, if everybody will mute yourselves, I'm sure that we just had an accidental unmute. There we go.
Okay.
Continue, Pastor Don. Sorry about that.
Okay. And so don't think it's going to be an easy fight. They're not going to lay down. They're not going to just give in. However, that's not what we're called to do. It's not called to be easy. We're called to protect our children. And so that's why I'm a part of it and working here in Washington, D.C. with the DOJ. So if there's other information, for example, if you know someone that's been injured by it, I would encourage you to send information over to Eileen or whoever she would suggest that you do, so that you can get it to Salt and Light Global, get it to Gina Johnson, get it to somebody that can help get it to me, and we can also get it to the Department of Justice because part of this lawsuit is there have been some injured parties, and because you can't just really go after them unless there's somebody that you can actually hold up that has been injured by some of their policies. And there actually has been, and there probably are a few people on this call that either have also been injured by the policies or know someone that has been injured by the policies. So our job is just simply speak up, and I'll stop there.
And Pastor Eason, I'm gonna put in the chat, I'll put the link to the Salt and Light Global link that you can submit your story as you see a clear violation of Title IX or clear violation of, your appearance, religious liberties, blatant. Submit your story and facts to this link. Salt and Light Global is making a heroic effort at documenting these stories and have been crucial in this whole investigation with Don and getting this information to the Department of Justice. And, the legal area moves slowly, and they have to have the right information for things to move along. But it is, as they obviously, Godfrey Lee, Troy, Lansing school districts. It's not Troy. It's the department. It's Detroit Public Schools and Lansing Public Schools and Godfrey Lee, LEE school districts. So, but there are more. We know that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of violations and literally districts disregarding the law. So I'll put that in the link. So if for anyone here, just copy and paste it in case you have a story to share. That's the best place to do it.
And might I add there, and that's where I guess the rubber meets the road is some of this stuff is actually in Michigan law as being okay, which is why you have to have the DOJ investigate it. Because some of them are actually following the law that's been put in place in Michigan, which is against the federal law. And so that's why they're involved. And can I add just one more, which is why I'm just going to talk about CURE just briefly, which is why we actually encourage school choice. We have a report out that's called School Choice, a Moral Imperative. You can find that on our website at curepolicy.org, curepolicy.org. I didn't talk a lot about what we do, but we do help write policy. You mentioned that you mentioned the $700 federal credit that the state has to opt into. They also get to pick the organizations that qualify for it as well. So but for those that want to take advantage of it, it's a plus and a minus. Ohio has opted into it. You could actually donate to one of those NGOs in Ohio and get the credit. The problem is it won't go towards a Michigan organization. And so if you try, because it's a federal credit, not a state credit. So you can't actually donate in another state if our state does not opt in and still get the credit. The downfall is it won't go to a student in the state of Michigan.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so important. I put your CURE website in the chat as well. So everyone go to that as well. That would be great. Thank you, Don. Thank you for staying on this. I know you're just, looking at it like a laser. And we appreciate we have someone like Don in Washington on our behalf through this organization, really bird dogging all this for us. And we're going to move on to, okay, last month, we heard about the Michigan Organization of Adolescent Sexual Health, MOASH, and how they are getting their funding and teaching our teachers and pushing the LGBTQ agenda in our schools. And we wanted to make sure you knew there were other alternatives so that we can challenge this agenda in our schools and also offer an alternative. And to do that, we invited Nicole Horseman on, and you can hold off for a second, Nicole, on your screen, but she is going to share with us the sexual risk avoidance education curriculum that has been proven and tried. And in fact, I know it's been in Grand Rapids Public Schools up until about 8 years ago, I think, 8 or 9 years ago. Your predecessor Natasha was teaching it. Awesome. And with her is Brittany Hausman. And they're going to share what they're doing, how this curriculum works in the schools. And you all will have the opportunity. We can share their PowerPoint with you afterwards. But then you'll have an opportunity when you go before your school boards and you're saying, hey, this curriculum, we don't like this curriculum, but please consider this. It is a proven, tried and true curriculum, giving the basics for children and the sex ed, education classes. So take it away, Nicole.
All right. Well, awesome. Thank you, Eileen and Amy, for having us on tonight. My name is Nicole. So I am the chair for the Michigan SRA Council, which we will talk about in a minute. And then Brittany Hausman with me, she is the vice chair for the Michigan SRA Council. So we appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about sexual risk avoidance education, what we're doing, and what resources are available to you as community members in the state of Michigan. So I'm actually going to have Brittany go ahead and start off. I do have some slides, so hopefully those are viewable by everyone. But Brittany, if you want to take it away.
Thank you, Nicole. So sexual risk avoidance, we'll discuss some terms here in the beginning, but we'll start with the council. As Nicole mentioned, we are the Michigan SRA Council is what you'll frequently hear, but it's the Sexual Risk Avoidance Council. Our mission statement is here. The Michigan Sexual Risk Avoidance Council, or the MI-SRA Council, promotes positive youth development by empowering adolescents to achieve optimal health by partnering with parents and advocating for sexual risk avoidance through education, community partnership, and public policy. Our coalition is made up of SRA educators and stakeholders from across the state of Michigan. We currently are reaching, now this number is on the low end, but about 17,000, more than 17,000 students. We meet quarterly to pursue 6 focus areas, including increasing SRAE, or sexual risk avoidance education knowledge, increasing parent engagement, increasing awareness of benefits of SRA in the community, advocacy, unity among SRA providers, and fair and accurate representation of sexual risk avoidance education in government agencies. So what is sexual risk avoidance? This is an approach to sex education based on primary prevention, which is an established public health model used to promote wellness and eliminate risk. This definition is from the Ascend organization, which is a national organization that lobbies for us. They lobby for SRA, and then they equip or train and unite SRA educators. And we'll share just a little bit more about Ascend later in the presentation. So as I mentioned, we focus on primary prevention. SRA is a primary prevention model, which really emphasizes wellness and eliminating risk altogether. For some reason, sexual activity is a risk behavior in which some groups aim to reduce risk rather than avoid risk altogether. We don't see these same principles applied to other risk behaviors, such as substance abuse. And circling back to this reduction model or reducing the risk, that's where you'll hear things like safe sex. And in sexual risk avoidance, we just don't see any sexual activity amongst teens as safe sex. And so the difference here is, in a reduction model, they may present contraceptives and present them as a method of safe sex for young people. And we just don't do that in sexual risk avoidance. We will educate and equip young people with facts about contraceptives, but we're not going to encourage that method as safe sex because, again, we don't believe that there is such thing as safe sex amongst teens. The sexual risk avoidance approach, here the Center for Disease Control actually considers teen sexual activity to be a health risk. We see this in surveys like the MI-SRA profile and the YRBS, or the Youth Risk Behavior, surveillance system. So these are surveys that survey our public school students and gauge risk behaviors amongst young people, and sexual activity is included in these surveys. The sexual risk avoidance believes every student deserves what is best for their optimal health. We're talking about physical well-being, mental well-being, and social well-being. And according to the CDC, abstinence is the only 100% effective way to avoid all risks associated with sex. And here you can see some data. We do observe the prevalence of lifetime sexual intercourse over time, and we are seeing a decreasing trend between the years of 2003 and 2023. When it comes to drinking alcohol, smoking, and doing drugs, today's teens are actually making healthier choices than previous generations, going back to as far as 1991. And again, the same trend is true for sexual risk behavior. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Nicole, our chair of the council, who will finish us out here.
Yeah, thank you, Brittany. And what's interesting is that's not just a state trend, that's a national trend. It'd be interesting if you looked up your county, if you look at the Michigan Profile for Healthy Youth, you might be able to break it down by county. I know in Kent County, where we are located, it's also a county trend, that steady decrease. We love to ask students, how many high school students do you think are having sex? And, you'll get answers anywhere from like 60% are having sex, just all over the board. And they're completely shocked when they find out that really the national and state numbers are closer to only 30%. In Kent County, where I live, the most recent Michigan Profile for Healthy Youth data that came out said 15% of high school students are having sex. So again, it's encouraging to see that decline. So there have been a lot of studies, as Eileen was referring to, there is evidence that this method is effective. So SRA is not a specific curriculum. There are a lot of curriculums that fall under the SRA approach, but we all follow the same guidelines, the same structure within those unique curriculums. Part of that is every state has different laws, right? So SRA might look slightly different in different states depending on what those laws are. But there have been over 25 SRA education programs that have undergone pretty rigorous studies and have found significant results in reducing teen sex or other impacting behaviors. So it's really promising. So there's quite a bit of evidence that these approaches are effective. The bottom right corner of my screen shows an article from Ascend. We'll give you that website later if you want to look into that and more about the results of this approach. Okay, so I want to clarify what SRA is. There's a lot of misinformation, and part of that is, as Eileen has already referred to, this has become a political battle, right? Of whose approach to bring into the classroom. And so you have different sides sharing different messages about what is or is not true about certain sex ed programs. So I did want to clarify for you what is important to SRA or sexual risk avoidance. So the first thing I want you to know is that SRA programs are informed by research-based standards. We follow the K through 12 standards for optimal sexual development. Now, you may have also heard referred to another set of standards, which is called the National Education Standards. I believe those are even referenced in MDE's recent release of the Health Education Standards Guidelines. But I wanted to be very clear with you, there are no official federal guidelines when it comes to sex ed. So the idea of having a standards or guidelines, any of those that you see are put on by private organizations, not by any type of government authority. So the National Education Standards, those were sponsored by CICUS and Advocates for Youth, if you're familiar with those organizations. Here's an alternative set of standards. So if you want to offer other standards to your school, the K through 12 standards for optimal sexual development are really great. Okay, so they're an alternative standard for a school to look at as you're thinking through formulating sex ed curriculum. SRA is holistic. So we want to address the whole person. We recognize that individuals have a spiritual side, a relational side, a physical side, an emotional side. And we believe that sex can impact all of those arenas. So we want to address this health issue from a holistic approach. We are aligned, our approach of avoiding risk is aligned with the behavior of the majority of teens. So we just shared those statistics with you. The reality is most teens are not engaging in sex. And so this message of avoiding sex is actually very relevant. I think that's a pushback that we get a lot as SRA counselors. It doesn't work. They're going to have sex. Why even talk abstinence? Because you know they're going to have it. Well, the data shows differently. Okay. And so it goes along with the majority of what teens are making. We're just encouraging that. Like, hey, this is a healthy choice. Great job. And here's some information to back you up or help you defend your stance of why you are choosing to avoid sex as a teen. However, we still do want to be relevant for those engaging in risky behavior. We did see the numbers. There are teens who are engaging in sex. We are still applicable to them. So we do address students who may already be engaging in sex. Okay. And we might talk, as Brittany mentioned, we will talk about contraception, but we want them to understand efficacy rates because there's also a lot of information, TikTok, Instagram, social media is not our friend on that, that if you use a condom, if you use the pill, you're safe, right? There's no risk. Well, that's not true. And science and data show that that's not true. So we want to talk about it. We want to be the ones to have that dialogue, but to help them understand it's not 100% foolproof. There are cons, there are risks of side effects. So we do invite that conversation. Ultimately, our goal for even the student who's already engaging in sex is, hey, we want you to have your optimal health because you deserve to have the best health possible. And that would be ceasing sex. So ceasing sex and making that choice to avoid in the future, regardless of your past choices. It's never too late to wait or change your mind. We're very pro-parent. As you saw in our mission statement of SRA Council, engaging with parents is very important to us. As Eileen mentioned, you are the expert of your child. Okay, not us. We're there to assist parents. We are not there to make the decisions for parents. So we work really well with parents. I love working with some of our schools. I have seen parent opt-out letters go really well. That is a staple thing. Any school that we go into, that my team goes into, we have a parent letter that gets sent out with plenty of notice. Parents have the option to review our curriculum, and then they decide whether or not they want their child to participate in any or all of the programming. Okay, so that's really, really important to us to have the parent involved and have the parent voice be heard. The other thing I'll mention with that is we don't bring personal values into it, right? Because that's the parents' role. Parents all different faiths or beliefs, they can be the ones to bring in that values-based aspect of it. When we're there, we're talking about it from a position of health, right? Is this a healthy behavior? Is this unhealthy behavior? And we direct parents to be the ones to lead conversations about personal beliefs and values related to sex.
And
Yeah,
Nicole,
go
if I
ahead.
could interrupt you,
Mhm.
because the curriculum is framed that way, is what makes it available in public schools. Like that argument is taken away if they think you're trying to push, you're not pushing anyone, a Christian agenda or a Muslim agenda.
Mhm.
You are very cognizant of the parents. And when you're through this portion, I'm going to have you walk through it. I know we're getting questions on our Q&A of like, this is great. How do I bring it to my school? And I'll have you address that. But that's a huge point for our parents on this call is this is a curriculum that can go in public schools and I think is in several
Yes.
public schools that in Kent County that you guys are involved in, correct?
Yep. Yeah, we are in public schools across the state. So my team is located more in the Kent County, Montcalm, Berry County area. And we're in more public schools than we are private schools.
Yeah.
I know Brittany, our vice chair, her program is in some public schools as well. So most definitely, and we're in schools of a variety of different demographics where you have completely polar political views, and this has been a really good fit because our focus is on health. Okay,
Yeah.
we're not going to go into the different values that people might have on either side because we can talk about this from just the health perspective,
Right.
based on the data that we know that health or sex is a health risk. We're pro transparency. It's very important to us. You'll see this with my program. You'll see this with SRA programs that our curriculum's available. It is state law that if they're teaching sex ed, they should have that curriculum available to parents, at least in the school office. I know more for my team, we post our lesson plans online because not every parent can take the time to page through them in the office. But we want parents to know exactly what we're covering so there's no surprises. It's value affirming, so we believe in the intrinsic value of every single student. Each of them matters, regardless of their circumstances, regardless of past or future decisions they might make, regardless of how they've been treated or what people say about them, they have value. And because they have value, their health is important. Okay, and it's okay for them, and we encourage them to make decisions that is best for their health because they matter. We also believe we're relevant to all students. So SRA uses something called universally transferable skills. So the information we share is going to apply to any student regardless of their identity, orientation, faith background, okay? Because we can look at this from a frame of health. It's important for every student to know what a healthy relationship looks like. It's important for every student to know how to resolve conflict. It's important for every student to understand there is a risk of STD. So we can talk about all of these topics without having to dive into one particular population or another group. It's universal, the information that we're sharing. There is some confusion out there. There's a lot of terms that have been used, and I'll fly through this because I know I'm just about out of time, but you may have heard terms like abstinence only, abstinence-based, abstinence plus, and it's confusing because I have literally seen curriculum on both ends of the spectrum call themselves all three of these things. And so I want you to be aware that the term that we prefer, why we have a sexual risk avoidance council, we believe defining these approaches as sexual risk avoidance versus sexual risk reduction adds more clarity to the conversation, because it clearly differentiates what the primary goal is for each model. Sexual risk avoidance, our goal is that students are pursuing optimal health and that they are avoiding sexual risk altogether. A sexual risk reduction goal will probably talk about abstinence, especially if they're in Michigan. The law requires any program to talk about abstinence, so they
Right.
will. But a risk reduction strategy is more, okay, we'll talk about abstinence, but really our goal is we want to see students using contraception, right? So those two terms kind of help clear define what are the purposes and goals of those two approaches. Take a look at this website, weason.org. Brittany mentioned them earlier. They are a national organization. They're kind of the head of the sexual risk avoidance movement. There is a ton of information, resources out there. So if you ever have the chance to promote this type of approach to your school district and you want some data to back that up, they also have like different articles that help equip you to how can I defend SRA, maybe what are the one in the middle there, 5 common attacks against SRA and how to respond to those. So this is a really helpful resource if you want to advocate for sexual risk avoidance in your schools. Some of you may be familiar, we can't just get invited by a health teacher or a classroom teacher to teach this stuff. There is a very specific process that schools have to go through in order to get any type of curriculum approved for sex ed. In the state of Michigan, HIV prevention education is required of all schools. Sex education is not required. Okay, I think most schools do include it, but technically not required by our state. However, if a district does decide to include sex education, it must fulfill the A through K law. So something for you to look up if you're not familiar with is the state of Michigan A through K laws. I want to clarify, and many of you are already aware, districts do not have to adopt the MDE Health Education Standards guidelines for sex ed, okay? Even in the guidelines, it says that that section of it, schools do not have to adopt. I feel like I'm spending so much time working with districts and helping clarify. That's not law. It's not required. Your district has to
Right.
decide whether you want to follow it or not. Sex ed law. And we kind of discussed this earlier, but parents should be notified in advance if there's going to be sex ed taught. Parents have the right to review that sex ed contact and they have the right to opt their child out. And so that is problematic if you're in a district and those things are not happening because the law does require all of that for sex ed. All right, so how do you get connected with Michigan SRA Council? How do you learn more? We do have a Facebook and an Instagram page. The QR code on the bottom corner, if you scan that, will link to your Facebook page. We have an email account, so you can contact us through that Gmail account. There, we'd love to talk to you about who's local in your area. So we're spread across the state. I might not be close to you, my team might not be close to you, but I'm sure we have others part of our council who might be closer and willing to provide what their specific SRA curriculum is or help support you if you are working with districts to offer this alternative approach. If you're ever interested in attending one of our meetings, we would love to have parent partners or community partners that have a stake in this or are interested in being part of the sexual risk avoidance movement. So please feel free to connect with us. All right, I think I did okay on time.
No, you're doing great.
Okay.
So two quick questions. Well, maybe not quick, as I'm watching the chat as well. One, and it's a big problem. Many school board members have no clue about the sex education advisory boards that are required by state law. And how do we help them? How do we help these board members learn and engage and be open to even looking at perhaps a curriculum that the SRA Council, would share? And how would they engage with you if they need help? And we have several on this call who are really doing a great job and actually fighting with their school boards right now, where they're dealing with school board members who they have no education on this topic and they don't even really know the law. How would you recommend they approach that?
Yeah. I mean, it is written straight in our law. So,
Yeah.
if you want to have it straight from the source, being
Yeah.
able to share directly what those laws are, the A through K are pretty condensed in Michigan state law. It's fairly easy to read, which is nice.
Do you ever go to if someone needed an extra resource person, would you ever have an SRA council member come with them to the school board meeting and talk about this, or what might be some avenues they can engage with you?
Yeah, I would encourage them to email us or follow us on our social media and just reach out about your specific situation. We love to be there as a resource. Again, we're very pro-parent. We want to be able to support you through this. A lot of us have had a lot of experience working with both sex ed advisory boards as well as school boards.
Yeah.
So we would definitely be happy to share the knowledge that we've learned through working with these districts.
Right. That's great. And my other question is, where do you get your funding? How are you guys funded? Is there a cost to join a council? How do you get a council in a county that doesn't have one?
Yeah, so our Michigan SRA Council is statewide. So funding is always a point of question there. At this point, we're all individual organizations that teach sexual risk avoidance in our specific counties. All of us get funding differently. I know for my specific team, our funding just comes from very generous donors who care about the health of students, and so they're willing to donate. So we're pretty fortunate in that. I do know some SRA programs in the state of Michigan do take some grant funding. There is actually grant funding for sexual risk avoidance education. I actually personally know the state coordinator who is super, super supportive of SRA. She's really awesome. And so there is that route too. So there's funding from a variety of ways. The SRA Council itself is not highly funded, right? It's all of us kind of contributing from our separate organizations and pooling together because we care about this and we believe as a state we want to be unified in this approach.
Okay. So if we usually share a memo after the Zoom, and we could share, you can share with us some of your resources and folks who are here. We have a few minutes if someone want to raise your hand and you can unmute yourself. I don't know, or Amy, you can unmute you. If you have other questions, we have a few minutes to take some of these. I want to make sure I capture or all the we have these great resources in these two young women. It's really awesome.
And I don't know if Don is still on as well, that if there was any questions about the Department of Justice
Great.
investigation as well.
I am still here. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Pastor Don, Mr. Busy Man. Yeah, any questions that we can have from anybody? There's Nicole, I know one topic that was brought up in the chat was on the topic of abortion. I don't know, does your program do much with that topic?
So, per state law, we're not really
Yeah.
allowed to talk about it.
Okay,
So we don't
Right.
address that in our curriculum.
okay, perfect. Any other questions that are popping in? I would be curious to know what you ladies are seeing as far as a difference in the school system. Do you see, are there any trends that you see other than what you've already addressed? Any additional trends, of questions kids are asking, more eager welcomeness from teachers? Anything come to mind?
I can speak to that a little bit. I think something I notice in the districts that I have the privilege of going into, the teachers are very welcoming and the schools are very excited. Truthfully, I don't think the district themselves want to touch sex education with a 10-foot pole. It's so polarizing. It's a hot button issue at school board meetings. And so, for an organization to come in and provide sex education through a nationally credentialed, trained professional who's not going to charge the school, is
Yeah.
going to pop in as a guest instructor, do all of the teaching, field all of the questions, and then leave. And the teacher doesn't have to do anything besides sit there and supervise the classroom. So
Yeah.
there's tons of value in that. And again, I had mentioned in the chat too, one of the things I've been doing quite frequently now is doing some consulting with school districts, walking them through the law and the
Right.
Sex Ed Advisory Board process. And sometimes just building relationship through that invites more conversation about getting an SRA particular curriculum into the district. It sort of sets that ball rolling, if you will.
Yeah.
And then in terms of students, things that we're seeing, I see a lot of things that support the data. I think they're very well aware of what culture is doing. They're very aware of the hypersexualization everywhere. I think they're critically thinking. I think they desire genuine connection and relationship. And I think a good SRA instructor does that, builds genuine relationships with a young person so that they know that we're providing trustworthy information and we're not telling them what to do. We're just fully equipping them to critically think and have all of the information they need in their toolkit. Things like consent, laws, boundaries, refusal skills, really making sure that they're equipped to navigate all decision making around sexual activity.
That's awesome.
Great.
Shannon, Shannon doesn't know this, but I already talked to Nicole about you, Shannon, because I want to connect you guys afterwards. Shannon is one of the primary leaders with our Moms for Liberty in the state and is doing incredible work. And she had a question for you guys. Did you disappear? Are you still there, Shannon? Oh,
I'm
there
right
you are.
here.
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
talk. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you've got the microphone.
Yes, I love this idea because a lot of our school board members are under the impression, like when we approach them with sex ed advisory board concerns, this is a great option because a lot of our moms that get on this advisory board, they're looked at as they're against sex ed. But with our
Right.
curriculum that we have with Michigan Model Health, Advocates for Youth, it's riddled with, you know, um, terrible things. We already know what's in the curriculum. So this is a great alternative. So this is great. And I guess you answered most of my question. I just wanted to let you know
Hmm.
that's what they look at us as we're trying to stop sex ed,
Hmm.
and we're not. We just want this is perfect. What we're looking for is all about the health and safety.
Mhm.
So thank you so much for
Yeah, and
sharing
it's
this
I'm
information.
excited for like Nicole and Brittany to get to know Shannon because Shannon's over in Wayne County and she's doing what a lot of I'm sure parents and activists are doing around the state is she's basically taking the bull by the horns and she and I were just talking and they are attempting to do an audit of the 40 school districts around her to see if they have sex advisory education boards. And so they're in that process right now of exploring. So this is just perfect timing and I will follow up and connect you guys. Do we have
And
any
I want
additional questions?
Amy, yeah, Monica, I think you're still on, Monica Radico in Chippewa Valley. Are you on? You're still on the
Yep, I'm
Chippewa Valley
here.
board?
Can you hear
Hey,
me?
Monica.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi, Monica. Thank you. Monica was very heavily involved in Moms for Liberty, is now on the Chippewa Valley board. I'm seeing all the chat. Yes, we need conservative school board members. John, that's part of it. We all need to encourage either run ourselves or encourage our friends to run and support them and campaign for them. And this is the year to do it. And Monica took that message and ran with it and is enduring the Chippewa Valley School Board. And Monica, I just wondered if you saw any opening, why I really wanted to have Nicole and Brittany on was to show all that there are alternatives to the sex education this is very, it's not controversial, as you can hear them talking about and how they teach. I'm hoping that this may help you in those really contentious boards. I know that several of you on this Zoom, are enduring.
Yes.
And if you have any questions,
No, I'm very excited to look into this more. And unfortunately, right now, me and Robert are the only conservative voices. So we can definitely bring it to the table. We'll probably be shot down, but something to keep in our back pocket. But
sure.
yeah, so it's a learning experience for me. It's only been 1 year, but I have found violations in our SEAB board. So I encourage school board members, parents to look into it. A lot of districts don't even have a website regarding any information on it. So it's probably something that they'll have to FOIA. But with Chippewa, we did have it on the website. Except our person is very woke and she just, wasn't doing what she was supposed to be doing. So we caught her in a couple violations. So we're working on it.
Right.
Wow.
Thank you. Thanks, Monica. Thank you,
Thank you.
Robert, and others who care a lot and have put your time, talent, and treasure into getting on these school boards. So this is a great alternative, and we will send you their information and their phone. It's okay to share your phone numbers, Nicole. You let us know what we can share, and you need more councils, I think, right? You're looking to set up more.
We want more people to join in the state of
Yeah.
Michigan. So if you know
Okay.
people in our state who would be a great fit for this or being a voice on our council, because we want to be present in the state. Other states are building councils. Not every state has a council like this. I know I was just in a communication that Indiana just started one, Ohio has one, but not every state does. If
Yeah.
you have people in other states, we can ascend kind of the one to connect people if they're looking at a national level. But for Michigan, definitely, we want more people to join
And
us.
then you'll let us know how to tell people what to do, how they would connect with you to get on a council or be part of your council. Okay, awesome.
That's
Thank you
awesome.
so much, everyone. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. It's important to us to make sure that we honor your time. If you would just take one moment and consider what can you do to help this process. Here's a couple things that you can do. The next date is April 14th that we are planning to do our next educational Zoom. And if you would imagine that Jesus changed the world with 12 people. So when we look at this list and we think, wow, there's only 100 people that registered and there's 9 million people in the state, right? If you would consider that your mission is to invite 2 people to join us for the next educational briefing, that would be so helpful to us. And in addition, please flag your inbox to make sure that you are watching for emails from Citizens for Traditional Values, because we are working our hardest to send you an educational email every other week that's keeping you apprised of resources, tools, and the way that you can help us is simply to help us grow the movement. Forward the email to your pastor, forward the email to a teacher that is on the inside, that is grasping for air and encouragement. Let them know that we are supporting them and we love them and we want to be there for them. And also the last thing, if you would reply to our email and let us know the kind of topics you and your fellow parents and fellow activists would appreciate hearing, that would help us immensely. Eileen and I do not pretend to know all the answers or what is needed. We're doing our best, but we would welcome your feedback. Anything from, Amy, could you bring us somebody that is digging into this topic or this topic? We really, truly want to be a resource to you, a free resource that will hopefully add a little jump in your step, but also inspire you to invite more people to the table. I also want to give one quick shout out to Pastor Lester Guest. It is our heart to bring more men and women that serve in the pulpit to this conversation, because pastors care deeply, as Pastor Don can testify, care deeply about the children that are in their schools. So if you have a pastor that is open to talking about these topics and praying for the children, wants to know what's happening under their noses, please invite them. This is a safe place that we want to honor them and encourage them to be a part of the conversation. With that, we bless you and we will send you a follow-up. Nicole, Brittany, Pastor Don, thank you so much. You have blessed us, and may God bless you in your work. Thank you, everyone. We will see you in April. Have a good evening.
April 14th.
April
You'll see.
14th.
April
Thank
14th.
you,
Mark it
everyone.
down.
Thank you.
All
Good
right.
night,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.